Hello, I will be presenting to you the I.O., also known as the Language A individual oral. This individual oral is undertaken whether you take language and literature or literature. Doesn't matter, and there's no way out of it. So I'm here to tell you, well, not here to tell you, I'm here to get you excited and enthused about the individual oral. It's a wonderful aspect of the IB, and I think you'll really enjoy it. And it's usually presented at the end of year 12. So it's really, the earlier you really kind of get to know and understand it, the better. A few of the basics about the IO, whether you take, well, at higher level, it's 20% of your final grade, and at standard level, it's 30% of the final grade. And that's kind of pretty much it in terms of the differences with that. Both higher level and standard level use the exact same assessment criteria, as does literature and language and literature. So the assessment criteria doesn't change regardless of the course. It is always 15 minutes in total. So you have a 10-minute organized presentation of two separate texts. Okay, that's basically what the IO is. And that 10-minute presentation of two separate texts is followed by 5 minutes of teacher questions for further discussion. Simple. Both texts need to be focused around the same global issue. I'll talk about global issues in a minute. And it's presented orally to your teacher. Obviously, it is called an oral. And it is recorded, not on video, so don't worry, but it is recorded and it's assessed internally. That means your teacher assesses it at the end of year 12. So if it's centered around a global issue, what on earth is a global issue? Well, the IB defines a global issue as any issue which is transnational, so that means that it, happens in more than one country, it crosses borders. It has significance on a large scale, so it affects a lot of people, and its impact is felt in everyday local contexts. Okay, so some examples are, say, food insecurity. So that, that's the idea that not everyone knows where their dinner is going to come from on a daily basis. They don't have access to food, and that obviously happens in Switzerland. But it also happens obviously in other countries in the world. It's not a huge problem in Switzerland. Or the impact of racism on children is also a global issue, though obviously it could be impact of racism on adults. Gender inequity, the effects of war on children, or maybe even the effects of war on women, or the effects of war on family. There's all kinds of ways that you can word your global issue. The impact of environmental degradation is another kind of global issue, and that could be, how it affects you socioeconomically, or how it affects cultural practices, maybe even. The responsibility of scientific innovation is a really good global issue, and of course the corruption of power. Power is a really broad term. It's always good to maybe even narrow that. The corruption of socioeconomic power, or the corruption of political power, or maybe even the corruption of patriarchal power in the family. So there's so many kinds of global issues, and you can sort of, they're not set in stone. You can help define that. Okay, literature versus language and literature. So as I say, they each have a global issue. They each deal with two extracts. But in literature, you're dealing with one extract that was originally written in English and one extract that is from a text in translation, not originally written in English. In language and literature, It can be any literary text, whether written in English or in translation, and one non-literary text. So that it just needs to be anything not written by an author that's on this prescribed list of authors from the IB. It's important to note that with these two extracts, it is not a comparative analysis. You do not need to compare them at all. You just need to you treat each text completely independently, but you just talk about the same global issue and how the global issue emerges from each of those texts. Finally, the extracts. Each extract is no more than 40 lines long, so poems are often really good for a literary extract because they're often short. And then for Langlit students, a non-literary text can come from a wide variety of audiovisual and written text types. So for example, a professional photograph or a piece of advertising or some stills from a music video or a movie or a documentary or speech, any of these things can be considered, a non-literary extract and can be analyzed for a global issue. You just have to make sure that your text comes from a larger body of work. So that if you have an ad, it comes from a larger ad campaign, or that your photograph comes from, a larger body of photographs from the same photographer. Okay, and that's really all that the IO is. That's it, and I hope you're thoroughly enthused now, and that you can't wait to get started on it.